Bledsoe, the guy who's the color commentator for Mississippi State football and SEC baseball. So yeah, he brings a lot to the game, and he's right here, right now. Online at thezone1059.com and on your radio at ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
Hey, what's up? Here we go. Welcome into the show. I'm Matt in the Bureau, Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance, go with the home team. The mobile Farm Bureau Insurance Studio is here live in Hoover, Alabama at Hoover Metropolitan Stadium, day 3 of the SEC baseball tournament. Mississippi State taking on Tennessee in an elimination game right now, right down there in front of me. As I'm sitting up here in the press area on the first base side, updates forthcoming. It ain't looking too hot right now for State. We'll get into that in just a bit. It might be 2 and Q unless something miraculous happens over the next few outs. Update on that coming up. We do, it's really the first day that we've had a little cloud cover during for the day games here on day 3 of the tournament. And of course, you had a little rain last night. An unbelievably competitive and entertaining ball game last night. A little back and forth between Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt came back, walked it off in the 9th inning, but it was a heck of a ball game for anybody that stayed up and watched it or anybody who was here for that. But for Ole Miss, it sends them to the losers bracket where they're going to face Georgia today in an elimination game coming up right after this one is over. Welcome into the show. I really do appreciate y'all being a part of it. Feel free to text me. I want to hear from you. Text me, call me, or comment on the live stream. On the live stream, if you're there, drop a comment, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. Happy to hear from you. Text the Country Pleasing text line. It's 885-ESPN. It's a 601 number, 885-ESPN or 885-3776. So text me there. Norman, I'm coming to your text in just a second. And then also call me. Call me on the Davini phone, Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer, the oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S. In fact, that means right here at home, they've been doing it better, longer than anyone else here at Davini. The Davini phone number to call is 995-1059. You call me on that number, we'll talk, put it on the air, see what's up. 995-1059. So give me a call. If you call me, Bill, text me, let me know you're on. And we'll be off and running. Right out of the chute here, Coffee Norman, he texted me, he said, Matt, I'm not a coach and I wouldn't want to have these decisions, but if State doesn't get a national seed as a result of this debacle, then boy, oh boy, easy for us to play coach as fans, but Lamonis will not get any slack. Warranted criticism? Maybe, maybe not. That's a question from Coffee Norman. Well, it obviously, Norman, is dependent on how this game finishes up here. Right now, I mean, Tennessee's just been putting it on State throughout the ballgame. It's 8-2, and Tennessee batting in the bottom of the 8th inning with the bases loaded, no outs. And so they're like a base hit away from another double-digit number of runs allowed here by State pitching. And the thing is, today you went out here with your 3 best guy. If you're Mississippi State, and Tennessee has still hit the ball all over the ballpark. They're sitting there on 13 hits right now in the game. And Landon Sims came in here to pitch the bottom of the 8th and presumably the bottom of the 9th as well to get some work here in Hoover without going 2 weeks and, not throwing a pitch. So, yes, okay, there's a certain strategy that they obviously came in here. I say strategy, a certain approach they were going to take. They treated yesterday's game like a midweek game from a pitching perspective, and we saw how that worked out. You come back today, and against Tennessee in an elimination game, it's the only game you're guaranteed to have left. If you win, you get another, but if not, you don't. So they pitch McLeod. They start your ace of your staff, your Friday night starter. You pitch McLeod, and then came after McLeod and gave Bednar 2 innings of work. You come after Bednar, you give Simmons an inning of work, and now you got Sims in the ballgame, and Sims has walked a run into the ballgame here with the bases loaded. He's given up 3 hits, has not recorded an out yet here. 3 consecutive hits loaded the bases, and then 3 consecutive singles loaded the bases, and then a walk here issued by Landon Sims has walked another run in. So it's now 9-2, bases loaded, no outs. Tennessee batting in the bottom of the 8th, trying to open this thing up completely. So, again, when you say the decisions, it's pretty clear the decision yesterday was we're going to approach this like not a must-win, but like a midweek game. We're going to, see how a start for Brandon Smith goes. We're going to get some guys out of the bullpen and get them some work here. And there's an extra base hit down the right field line. Is going to score at least 2. It'll be 2, and you'll have runners at second and third with no outs. And so that'll make it an 11-2 ball game. And in the bottom of the 8th, we are – is that right? Yeah. So in the bottom of the 8th, we are a ground ball, fly ball, base hit away from it being a 10-run rule win. Well, that's one thing about this thing. Like, you had the 10-run rule yesterday. It's a 7-inning deal. But if you're the home team batting in the bottom of the 8th, you got to treat it like it's a 9th, right? Because that run over there on third base right now with no outs makes it your back-to-back 10-run rules here in Hoover. And, folks, that ain't good. There is no way to what's the right word? There's no way to gloss that thing over. I mean, it's ugly. It's just ugly, the performance for Mississippi State here at the SEC tournament so far. I'm watching right now across the way there. I'm watching the dugout. You don't see any bad body language. Nobody throwing a fit like that for State. Nothing going on. I'm watching Chris Lamonis in his spot at the end of the dugout. He does not look happy, nor would you expect him to be. I think it'd be a pretty embarrassing thing to come in here as a 3 seed in the tournament and not just lose, but lose 2 in a row, go 2 in Q, but both losses be by 10-run rule. That might be some kind of record that you don't want to set. So I think your question is a fair one. It's not so much the loss. I think the types of losses that are happening right here, Norman, are the kind that, amp up the criticism. If you just say, well, it could be a 1-run loss or it could be a 10-run rule, it's still a loss. And that's the way the RPI stuff is going to treat it. Do these 2 games in back-to-back days take you out of being a national seed? We talked with Steve Robertson yesterday, and Steve may drop by here and put the headset on some today also. And it sounded to me like, and I agree with him, you got 2 teams going to be right next to each other. In the seeding process anyway, or at least maybe up for the same spot. And if you looked at it if you looked at the committee's job and said, we're going to assume they don't want to give 4 SEC teams a national seed for whatever reason, say they don't want to, there's going to be only 3, then this could be a game that you got 2 teams that are up for that 3rd national seed from the SEC. And if that's the case, it's Tennessee, right? And there's going to be a base hit, and that'll walk it off for Tennessee. Base hit up as a double up the right side against Landon Sims, and that'll end the ball game. It'll be a 10-run rule, 12-2 win for Tennessee over Mississippi State. That'll end the ball game. Landon Sims came in here to pitch the 8th and recorded 1 out. It was by strikeout, but really nobody on the mound yesterday or today got it done for State. Today, State hit the ball a little bit better. 8 hits in the ballgame, but out-hit 15-8. 5 hits in the 8th inning for Tennessee against Landon Sims. Not to mention Sims walking in a run. But 8 hits today, just 2 runs on those 8 hits. And so it was a paltry showing here at the SEC tournament. I mean, look, let's just be honest. There's no other way to say it. Just like we started the week. The first guy that we interviewed all week long, Coach Polk, and he readily admitted, the most important tournament's the one next week, not this week. You say the overall importance. Yes, that's the fact. But, the last thing you're doing as a player is trying to lose. Nobody in any of these uniforms on any of these teams is trying to lose. It's an embarrassing 2 days for Mississippi State, for its players, its coaches, and its fans. It's embarrassing. And right now, as soon as this one ended, you're having a team meeting right now in the visiting dugout. State was the visitor in this game. Lamonis has got the team called up. It's all eyes on him. Everybody's still and standing at attention, and he's holding court. I don't know what you say. Yesterday with games to play here in Hoover, the message after was, look, we played really terrible baseball, and you just got to flush it and roll on to the next one, move on. Today, I don't know what the message is. It might be a little bit more. It might be a little bit, hey, I understand the postseason's right around the corner, but you get ready to practice because we're going to get after it. I don't know. That's a football mentality, maybe not necessarily a baseball one. But We can get into it. We got plenty of time today to get into the evaluation of this, me and you, and kind of poring over it and what it means. We'll look at RPI coming into today. But I think, Coffee Norman, you asked the pertinent question: does this move Mississippi State off of being a national seed? If so, what does that mean ultimately? I mean, we know what it means, right? It means you're not hosting a super regional. And this year, it's my understanding, it's one of those where they're going to predetermine whether you're hosting that thing or not. And you may have given the committee an excuse with your performances, not just losses, but 10-run rule losses. Yesterday to Florida and today to Tennessee. You may have given the committee a really nice, convenient excuse to not give 4 SEC teams national seats. Now, when I say that, it's assuming that, say, an Ole Miss or a Florida doesn't play their way right on into the championship, win this whole thing. You know, if either one of those do that, as Gator Greg brought up yesterday on the Davini Equipment phone line, if either one of those teams do that, Ole Miss or Florida, play all the way to the weekend and win the whole thing, then maybe we're having a different conversation as it pertains to 4 national seeds. But yeah, I just think those are things that you have to consider at this point. Now, if you're going to consider it pragmatically from the negative perspective, you also do have to consider it pragmatically from the positive perspective, and that is, State's going to host a regional in Starkville. You'll have 3 other teams in there. You got to play your way through that to go get into a super regional, and wherever that is, State has been a team that's played pretty well in opposing venues. 3-game series on the road throughout the year. They played pretty well at times. At South Carolina. Obviously a sweep at Alabama, but you look at, they were really competitive in that series and got a win up at Vanderbilt, had a chance to win the series up there. So, I think, everything's still on the table for the team. It's just a rough way to lose, and it's embarrassing. You have to figure out a way to use it in terms of motivation. All right, let's check it out here on the Country Pleasing text line. Nick texted the show, and he said that D1 baseball had State still the number 8 national seed as of 30 minutes ago. Looks like that had already been determined before the tournament. Yeah, and possibly so. Possibly so. I'm always curious, Nick, as to how the committees and how the people look at this conference tournament, the results here. There are obviously in other conferences and other tournaments, there's play-ins. It's just like in the SWAC, Southern Jackson State goes undefeated in the regular season, but it doesn't matter because Southern beat them in the conference in the SWAC championship game, the conference tournament. So it's Southern going to the NCAA tournament, not Jackson State. The other thing too is, depending on how things go for this Mississippi State team, if they come back and win a regional and win 2 out of 3 in a super and play themselves into Omaha, which they're capable of doing, it's going to be pretty telling, I think, as to the overall importance of the SEC tournament in the grand scheme of things. I think we all agree on that. Norman and Nick and everybody, I think we all agree on that. And we're having the discussion about hosting and how it affects hosting. And I get it. It's 2 different conversations. But we've seen it in the past that teams cannot play well here in Hoover and can go and play well in the postseason and do something, get to Omaha possibly. And that'll be the goal. Up next is Ole Miss and Georgia. So what's going on right now in front of me here at the Hoover mat? Mississippi State's team is exiting the visiting dugout. The pitching staff has already left and walked out to the bullpen in left field and gather their stuff. They're going to get on the bus and head to Starkville. Tennessee going to hang around because they've still got baseball to play by virtue of their win today. They'll be in another elimination game at some point. They're exiting the home side of the field, which is the first base side. They're getting out of here, out of the first base dugout, out of their bullpen. Ole Miss, their team, they're wearing the powder blues. They are already on the field and kind of going through the stretching and getting loose. Calisthenics, if you want to use that term, out here in right field, kind of doing that first as they let Tennessee have time to get all of their stuff out of the dugout. So Ole Miss is already here getting loose. I see Georgia now. The Georgia team is not out here, but a couple of their coaches are out over on the visiting side trying to make their way out here to get ready to take on Ole Miss in Game 2 here on Day 3. Let me see here some of the comments on the live stream. We'll take a look at Facebook. What's up, Austin? Thanks for tuning in. Cody said, Hail State from Horn Lake. I sure hope we get it together for regionals. Yeah, you and everybody else, right? Harry on YouTube said, baseball is baseball, but this ain't good, Chief. Yeah, it certainly doesn't look good, does it? I mean, it looks rough. You can say it what it is, but it's embarrassing. Steve said, to recap, outscored 25-3 in 2 ball games. Will said, we are awful. They were awful yesterday and today. There's no way around it. Steve said, how about the message is I'm resigning? Oh, from the coaching staff. That would be a little bit of an overreaction there, Steve. Keith says, when did we change our mascot Bulldogs to, and you know I can't read that, Keith. Sven, this says, this is the worst 2 games I ever saw. I mean, it is hands down the worst 2 games and certainly the worst back-to-back stretch that this Mississippi State team has played all year long. I mean, it is. It just is. There's no other way to describe it. Mason said they barreled up our best pitchers all day. It feels like Landon Sims gave up more hits today than he has all year. And you're nervous about it, huh? That's a text on the Country Pleasing text line. Yeah, I mean, just that's the thing about it is you look at the approach yesterday in that game against Florida. It's obviously you came in, you treat it like a midweek. You start Brandon Smith. Even when you go to the pen, it's a little bit different than what you would see on a weekend. And it went the way it was, okay? You're in the zone. They just hit the ball all over the park, 18, 19 hits. Today you give up 18 hits to Tennessee. Isn't that right? Or 15 hits to Tennessee, 5 of them in the bottom of the 8th inning. And the thing is, you came back today, and it's obviously they wanted to get work for people. McLeod is out there, and it's one of those I kind of felt like, okay, if McLeod was mowing them down and you get a lead, you got a chance, you're going to treat it almost like, a series opener. But when they jumped out in a big lead, it becomes less of a possibility of coming back and winning the game. I don't know if it was a plan coming in to then bring Bednar, your game 2 starter, your Saturday starter, to bring him in to get him work. I don't know, or if that was an adjustment because of the way the game was going. But it's obviously then the approach was, we don't want Bednar getting some innings this week. We want him, to throw some live pitches and not go 2 weeks without doing it. So they put him in there out of the pen. So I think you bring in Sims later, trying to extend the game to 9 innings. Everybody you put out there just got pummeled. They didn't just get hit. They just got rung up. I don't know how else you could state it. It was a whipping. What are the stats again? I was going to try to pull it up on the live stats. See what the final was here on that box score. I know it was 15 hits for Tennessee, 13-2. So they actually credit in that last hit. You credit 2 runs scoring, not just 1 for Tennessee. So 13-2 was the final. McLeod goes 4 innings, 5 runs on 5 hits, 4 strikeouts, walks 1. Give up 2 home runs. Bednar throws 2 innings, gave up 3 runs on 5 hits in 2 innings and struck out 4. Stone Simmons threw an inning, did not strike anybody out, got 3 ground ball outs, not bad. And then Sims comes in there and is only out there for a third of an inning, got the 1 strikeout in the bottom of the 8th. That was the only out he recorded. Outside of that, gave up 5 runs on 5 hits, plus walked 1 and only struck out 1. It could not have been – it just couldn't have been more different. And to cap off the 2 days and to sum it up quite nicely, I think you're doing it. You're saying, I don't know he's given up that many hits all year long combined, and then in this one ball game, 5. So, it was just about as bad as it gets here at the SEC tournament for Mississippi State. I don't know how else you say it. Ernest said, did the Dogs make SEC tournament history, 10-run ruled in 2 consecutive games? I don't know if anybody's ever done that. I'm sure there's a chance. I just don't know for sure. Unnamed texter says, has there ever been a worse performance by any team in SEC tournament history? Hey, we can say this, right? From a motivation standpoint, there ought to be plenty of motivation to play well come regional time. I mean, plenty, because this was bad. Norman said, Matt, what about potential of State and Ole Miss being 8 and 9 seeds in the tournament? Boy, oh boy, what a wild super if they both advance. Coffee Norman. I think it'd be great. I really do. It'd be good for baseball, and it'd be good for the state of Mississippi. You know, only one could move on. But, you know, we've talked about that before, right? You know, the possibility of those two teams meeting up in the postseason, whether it's regional or super regional. I think it would be fantastic if you could get that. I really do. All right, so to set it up for you, you've got post-game going on right now as we speak. If you're listening live in the middle of the day, post-game is going on right now. When that's over, Steve Robertson is going to, I think, again, like yesterday, going to have a chance to maybe come and join me a little bit, and we'll recap and talk and look ahead to regional stuff. We won't be able to get Parrish on the show. He's just right down the way, but won't be able to get him on the show. He's getting prepared for this Ole Miss Georgia game, doing some work. I actually saw Parrish walking downstairs a little bit ago, and then he'll be coming upstairs getting ready to cover the game. So it might be that we talk to Parrish tomorrow, depending on how all of this goes. And then later today, we're going to talk with my friend Trey Schapp from 103 The Buzz in Little Rock, Arkansas. Talk Hogs. Arkansas looked great yesterday as they sent Georgia to the loser bracket. What about me? Plenty to get to here with you today. Day 3, live from Hoover. I'm Matt in the Bureau, Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Y'all stick around.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
For double enjoyment, reach for Beech Nut Peppermint Gum. It sparkles your smile, your breath, your whole sense of enjoyment. Beech Nut Peppermint in the familiar yellow pack.
Jeans do come true.
Blue Delta Jeans makes the best fitting, most comfortable jeans in the world.
Let's dive in and see what we have here.
Do what I did. Visit BlueDeltaJeans.com. Find your fit. Just for my listeners, enter discount code Matt Wyatt.
Just answer the questions. BlueDeltaJeans.com. Answer the questions. Use this code. Use the code. You're going to get a discount.
They are the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn.
Farm Bureau Insurance stands ready to provide financial relief to our communities in this time of crisis. This includes a one-time credit to all personal auto policyholders, a donation of $500,000 to the Mississippi Food Network, and additional payment options for those hit the hardest, all while continuing to service customer claims as well. But this is the time to go above and beyond. These are a few ways we're keeping the Farm Bureau promise. To learn more, talk to your agent or visit us online. Go with the home team.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you a little bit about C Spire. New stuff in 2021, including 5G coverage. If you go to their website right now, cspire.com, you're going to see their no bull, which, by the way, I love the Super Bowl ad with the slow motion bull. You're going to see that on the website. But look, they're right. There's been a lot of bull over the years in your wireless bill, depending on if you know who you were with. And my experience with C Spire is just like they say, there's no bull. I know what it's going to cost me each month. I know what my coverage is the number one coverage in Mississippi, period, the number one network. And they've got 5G phones that are 5G ready. Now, I have the new iPhone 12 Pro Max, got it at C Spire, went and did curbside at my local C Spire location and did the exchange where I traded in my old one, got the new one, and it's 5G capable. And we've got 5G coverage in parts of Mississippi, and it's just growing by the day. So you really ought to check that out, okay? And in terms of the new phones, you got deals going on those as well. Find those out at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Every farmer understands their farm can't thrive without some good partners like sun, soil, and rain. And farmers in North Mississippi also rely on another important partner, Mississippi Land Bank, because land and farm financing are Mississippi Land Bank's primary focus. We've grown alongside these farmers' crops for more than 100 years. We understand what a farmer needs, and we know the lay of the land in North Mississippi. And that's where I stand.
A lot of people in the equipment world, things kind of go in trends, I guess, if you want to say it. So kind of the first big thing that we look at when we start evaluating our business is going to be our turf equipment. That's kind of the first big push, because once everything, the water dries up and the grass starts growing, this is what everybody's looking to get. We carry the new Wright stand-up mower. Doesn't look like much, but this thing is, and it costs just as much as zero turn. Not a cheap unit at all. I mean, if you go out there and look at that zero turn, this thing right here, I mean, it's got all your components from your big pumps to your commercial engine to your large steel deck. And these guys were the first ones to make the standard mower.
Better buy Bird's Eye. Better buy Bird's Eye.
Yes, always look for this Bird's Eye Bird, your guarantee of top quality frozen food. And your big Bird's Eye buy this week is Bird's Eye Orange Juice. Easy, you can serve it in a minute. Thrifty, it will save you money. Orchard fresh.
Show the guy who, if he's not talking sports, he's fishing for bass, okay? But he's right here, right now, online at 1059.com and on your radio at ESPN 105.9, The Zone.
All right, back with you live in Hoover. We are in between ball games. Mississippi State just got 10-run rule the second straight day. Yesterday it was 7 innings. Today it's 8, but still 10-run rule back-to-back days. So State's sitting there at 40 wins. They got that 40th win of the year in the final regular season game at Alabama to complete that sweep. And they are 20-10 in the SEC. That'll be the resume going into selection. They'll have the selection of the host sites and super sites on Sunday. And then the announcement of the full tournament field will happen on Monday. So State will host 3 teams. We just got to find out who they are and what seed State is, which affects all of that kind of thing. And as we sit here right now, in this very moment, if you're listening live, like we said, we're in a time when some other teams can maybe move up and down, or at least that's the theory anyway. So we're in between games. Ole Miss, one of those. A win on the opening day on Tuesday. And now, who'd they beat on that opening day? Who was it? Auburn on that opening night, Tuesday night. Then got into that ball game last night against Vanderbilt. An incredible ball game. I mean, it's just incredible. There's so many storylines in that ball game, too. And it was a late one, as you know. It was over 3 hours. At 3 hours and 15 minutes, I think, was the time. There was a period of time they were delayed because some rain moved through here last night. But so it went really late. And now Ole Miss is back out here for an early game. But a 5-4 loss to Vanderbilt last night for Ole Miss. It was a walk-off in the 9th inning. The storylines we talked about, I mean, you think about it, it was Elko with 2 home runs in the ballgame. A kid with a torn ACL hits a 3-run home run in the 6th inning to give his team a lead. Vandy comes right back out in the bottom of the 6th and ties it up 3-3. Elko then comes right back, gives them a lead in the top of that one, and then Vandy walks it off in the bottom of the 9th. So it was a pretty incredible deal last night to see here in Ole Miss. They've got the task of trying to turn right back around and play a ball game today against Georgia, elimination game that could, maybe make a difference for either one of these teams. We talk about seeding and that sort of thing. I tell you what, let's do. I want to introduce somebody that's here, and then we're going to come to a phone call, and we'll kick off the conversation. Steve Robertson from Scout.com. He's at Scout Steve R on Twitter. You guys follow him. Most of you do. If you don't, maybe you ought to think about it and consider that. He's with us right now. They just got done with postgame with Chris Lemonis and players. Steve, welcome to the show for the second straight day. Thank you. And the second straight 10-run rule for State. And what was it like in the postgame with Chris Lemonis?
It was like a funeral. First we got TA, and you could tell he absolutely wanted to be somewhere else other than the media room. But, he just said, hey, all we can do, we got embarrassed. All we can do is get home and grind. And then, Rowdy kind of had a similar message. But, it doesn't sit well with him. And that's the thing, too, is like, Matt, this being a competitor in the SEC yourself. It's like you can't turn that switch on and off. It's like you're not going to lay there and get beat on. There's just a personal pride and all that. So there are a lot of people that think, they just came through and went through the motions. And maybe Lemonis doesn't emphasize this tournament, and maybe there's a bigger prize for him. But, it's actually 3 straight 10-run rules for Mississippi State. And I looked this up earlier. State has not led an inning in Hoover since winning the 17-inning game against LSU, and that's 4 straight games. You get shut out by Vanderbilt 1-0, 10-run ruled by LSU 12-2, and then the 2 this week. And so under Lamona, State's simply not been a good Hoover team.
Yeah, really have not been. And I mean, it really culminates today when you look at back-to-back 10-run. And the thing that's so confusing to me is exactly what you said, Steve. Players, they know one speed. There's only one way to approach it. It's been that way since they were 5 playing T-ball, is we're on the field. I want to beat you. There's just one way to approach it. They know that. And today, I mean, you put McLeod out there, he gets hit. You put Bednar out there to make sure he gets some work this week. He gets hit. You put Landon Sims out there in the 8th inning. He gives up 5 hits in that inning, records 1 out. It's by strikeout and walked 1 in. It's like just the opposite of what you've seen all year long. It's confusing as to how that could happen.
Well, to be honest with you, I think once the game got away from them, they were ready to get out of there. You know, that's you can say what you want to, but the bottom line is that State came up here with not a whole lot to play for, but a lot to lose. And perhaps they feel better about their postseason standing than I do. Because you came to the weekend and said, "Oh, it's locked up after beating Alabama." And the good thing is for State is there hadn't been anybody really charging from behind so far around the country, and there's been a few upsets here and there, which kind of helps a little bit. But somebody's going to have to take that from them, but you didn't help yourself, and that's the main thing. Is when you have an opportunity to win a ball game and kind of achieve what you want to do without anybody else's help, you had 2 chances and you got 10-run ruled in both.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like, you think that whole national seed thing is in jeopardy?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say it's over, because again, I think if State wins 1 game here, I think it removes all doubt. But you see, State has gone from potential number 4 seed to a 5, all the way down to 7 and 8 in some projections. Now, listen, I love the guys at D1 Baseball and Baseball America, but they don't get to pick. They don't. And as a matter of fact, some of those guys missed the 20 regional prospective sites awfully. And so it's not like anybody's leaking them information, but it's their opinion. But yeah, State's right there in it. But the bottom line is it's not going to be as good as it should have been.
Yeah. I guess we kind of find out. State's going to really be a good litmus to really find out that selection process, how much it values a conference tournament like this. For a team that was a 40-win regular season, a 20-win team in a conference, is the top conference in America, but to just awful losses here. And that's like the eye test, the recency part we used to have with the BCS in football.
Mm-hmm.
It's really going to be a good litmus to see how the committee views losses like that in the conference tournament, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. The conference tournament, short of you being a team that comes in and gets hot and wins the thing, I don't know how much it really matters. But here's the thing. It's never going to boil down to one weekend. But if we look at the totality of things, you had a bad weekend against Arkansas, the number 1 seed.
Right.
You had a pretty bad weekend against Vanderbilt on the road, potential number 3 seed. You had an awful weekend against Missouri, a team that didn't even make your conference tournament. So it's not just one weekend. And you got to look at it in totality. Yes, State has won 40 games, 20 in the SEC. But there are some warts along the way, too, that when you get in there and the committee has to make a decision, that could be something that comes up. It's, hey, look at how they did against the elite teams in their conference. And then, of course, you lose the 2 this week, too. So that's not something that's insignificant.
No, not at all. I was scrolling through some of the texts here, Steve, on the Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves throughout the Southeast. It is the best, hands down. This is what I was looking for. Jay in Baltimore, he had a question for you yesterday while you were here, and I didn't get it in time. Jay is a huge Mississippi State baseball fan, lives in Baltimore, Maryland. Recently made a trip. He drove to Charleston, South Carolina, watched them play the Citadel, drove to Columbia, watched them play South Carolina, then drove to Duty Noble for a game against Missouri, took his daughter. It was great for him and long trip for him, big State fan. But he had a very important question for you yesterday. And am I reading this right? I was going to read it. It says for Steve Robertson, Van Halen, or it says Van Hagar.
I mean, is that a serious question?
Well, it's right there. Jay in Baltimore for Steve. Van Halen or Van Hagar. And I don't even know what one of those is.
So Van Hagar is Van Halen, which Sammy Hagar is the singer.
Okay.
After David Lee Roth left. I know you're a young guy, so let me educate you a little bit here.
Right.
But no, it's absolutely Van Halen.
Okay.
The traditional classic lineup, with Michael Anthony and and the Van Halen brothers and David Lee Roth. And God rest Eddie Van Halen's soul. The greatest to ever do it. I mean, is Eddie
He
Van
died
Halen.
this past year or
Yeah,
earlier?
yeah, he did. And it's one of those things, it's an easy question for me because I grew up with that stuff,
Okay,
and so,
yeah.
but listen, I'm not the Sammy Hagar hater a lot of people are. There's some great songs in that catalog in the Sammy Hagar years. And so I think we can like them both. I just like the David Lee Roth years better.
I knew that was up your alley, and
Absolutely.
And he is such a loyal listener and texter and caller. I hated that I missed it yesterday, so I just wanted to get that in there. Now let's see. We're getting opinions on the subject. White Denzel texted the show, and he said Van Halen is one of the most overhyped bands of all time.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that at all.
He didn't agree with that.
You want to talk overhyped? Let's talk Nirvana and Green Day.
Yeah.
The two most overhyped bands in the history of the world.
How about this?
I'd rather have the Backstreet Boys.
Now I'm switching it back to sports. This is total non sequitur here, but Arkansas Wolf, Ark Wolf on the YouTube live stream says, "Hey Matt, love the show. I'm a Hog fan. Really excited to see the Hogs play Vanderbilt tonight. It's almost like your national championship game right there.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and Kumar Rocker, I presume, is going to throw.
Yeah, and so that's the thing too. Is like all year long we've thought about that. It's like, oh, they don't play each other in the regular season. How will they kind of match up? I really like this Arkansas team, and I said it after the weekend at Arlington. There were some Ole Miss people that tried to like bait me into picking them. They said, "Who was your most impressive team at Arlington?" I said, "Arkansas," and I meant that. I wasn't just trolling Ole Miss people. The Arkansas team has just esprit de corps, man. It's like they always expect to win no matter the circumstances. And the way they came back and beat Texas Tech and Arlington was incredible. I think it set the tone for the rest of the season. But you win every SEC weekend. That's only happened, I think, twice in the modern era of the SEC. And so Dave Van Horn is an incredible coach. But I'm eager to see how they size up Kumar Rocker. I mean, Vanderbilt offensively is not what Arkansas is, but it's kind of like that whole immovable object and the irresistible force. How will Arkansas get to Vandy? We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, I can't wait for that tonight. And that's what's so crazy about baseball is just so different, because of the pitching thing. It's like in football, it's like you play Tom Brady once, and then you see him again in the playoffs, they have a different quarterback. Well, that happens in baseball, not in football. Steve Robertson here live in Hoover. I'm not going to put him on the spot. I might ask him during the break if he can stick around. He's busy. We'll find out. You got to stick around to find out if he's back or not.
I'm back.
He's back. We got to guarantee he's coming back with me